Ahoy there! Welcome to Adventure Calls, where we shout across the horizon and talk about the latest adventures to hit the Sea of Thieves, and hopefully talk about some lore along the way. I'm your host, Speaker, and today we'll be discussing the 6th adventure to hit the Sea of Thieves, A Hunter's Cry. Is what I would have said if we released this a month ago. But, you know, college is kicking my ass. I haven't really been able to upload recently, so we're also covering the new adventure, Siren's Prize. I apologize that this is so late, but, you know, I got personal stuff going on. Can't spend all day at the computer typing away making videos, so get used to it. My upload schedule is going to be a bit more sporadic. And instead of being joined by my normal co-host Derry today, I've invited a very special guest on, a very special guest indeed, Sir Draco from the Ancient Isles University.
Hello, hello.
And before we begin our little discussion, because I thought you would be someone really nice to bounce off of and talk about the lore, before we begin our discussion, I just want to allow you to introduce yourself. So, how did you get into Sea of Thieves, and what is your favorite tall tale?
Ooh, good questions. So I got into Sea of Thieves pretty much right around when it released because I had just moved in to a new house and I was kind of all over the place. I was like, I need something to decompress right now. I found this little pirate game. I actually found a video from Zilbrad.
Oh,
if you know who that is, but I found a video from him, and I was just so enthralled with the game. I got the $1 Game Pass deal that was going on then, and I haven't really been able to put it down since.
That's kind of the same story as me. I've just been around since the tech alpha and like completely enthralled with everything Rare has done here. And what is your favorite tall tale?
I think for tall tales, see, it's difficult because I enjoy a couple of them just for the narrative elements. Probably, I can tell you it probably won't be any of them from A Pirate's Life, which is a shame because there's some great artwork done there. There's some great environmental work done there.
Oh, 100%.
And lore, but the gameplay just isn't interesting enough for me, which is a shame. It might have to be either Shores of Gold or Seabound Soul. I enjoyed both of those immensely.
I think Captains of the Damned is my favorite thing Rare has ever made. That's kind of a stretch,
right.
But that tall tale, thematically, narratively, it's beautiful. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Can't get enough.
You know, I guess I lied myself. I do really enjoy the Sunken Pearl. I really enjoy that.
Ooh, yes, that is also one of the best things Rare has ever made.
That is just for the art, I guess. Really, I mean, I think I think they did beautiful work. I mean, across everything. I think the voice lines that the voice actors did, the Siren Queen and all of them, they did great work.
Well, that whole project, that whole update was just top-notch every corner, except for, like, additions to the world, because that was, like, 3 months of nothing.
Yeah.
Now let's get on to the main discussion. We're going to start with A Hunter's Cry, which was, I would say it's probably the most controversial adventure yet. We've got our work cut out for us in this one. Okay, so kind of the prelude to this, if you've seen the last episode about Forsaken Hunter, Merrick knows a lot. He has learned a lot throughout the past season, Season 6, and even a bit of Season 7, since it got delayed. And the Dark Brethren have absolutely murdered him. They've totally dumpstered him. His little solo sloop is completely destroyed. And they've abducted his soul in the Sea of the Damned, and they're holding him hostage for information. What kind of secrets? We have no idea. It's so vague that, like, the implication, for me at least, just has to be, like, whatever Belle told him. And actually, after this update, if you talk to Merrick in the Pirate Legend Tavern, he kind of gives us an answer, sort of, that he learned stuff from Belle, but even he doesn't know what they're after, so even just to start off, I think Rare could have kind of made this a bit more clear. Because the Dark Brethren's motivations throughout this adventure are very, they're not clear.
They're just like little angry little people, aren't they?
I suppose so. And I know some community members who love each and every one, and I love them too. I really hope they get better development in the future because I do like this arc, and I'm going to come back on this later. But I did like this arc with the Dark Brethren and seeing them again, but there were a lot of unanswered questions almost that I feel like Rare could have made a lot more explicitly clear. I've seen so many people in the past 2 months think that the Dark Brethren are the same thing as the Reapers, just because Rare unable to like kind of differentiate them better, but maybe that's the newbie's problem and not Rare. After speaking to Loretta, the Pirate Lord greets us on the dock. It's very nice to see him again, actually involved in the story, because this is like one of the only few times he's actually been here, in my opinion. And he uses the Veil of the Ancients, which is now strapped to his little, what do you call it, staff, and he opens a portal to the Sea of the Damned. He even mentions the castaway from A Pirate's Life.
Which is, I find that really interesting because he almost kind of judges the castaway for using it so sparingly. It's very strange.
That's a good point.
I wonder if there's perhaps some animosity there. Like the Pirate Lord doesn't like that there's someone that could match his power. I'm not sure. That's just like, don't get me wrong, I like the Pirate Lord, but I usually have this habit of seeing him in a negative light.
Yeah, and the mystery throughout the past season didn't help either.
Yeah, that's
he's been
true.
framed. And the question is, where are they keeping Merrick? And as we see in the original Hunter's Cry trailer, they're keeping him in a twisted version of the Sea Dog Tavern. The Dark Brethren have been hiding in the Sea of the Damned since Davy Jones's plans failed, and with their new scepter made from the skull of the Gold Hoarder, they've made a construct of the Sea Dog's Tavern using Amaranta's memories. And this was confirmed by Chris Alcock on the website. I've seen some people ask, why would they use the Sea Dog's Tavern? How can they summon this thing at all? And my explanation for that is in Legend of the Veil, Flameheart Jr. and Flameheart Sr. bring forth the Ghost Garrison with just one Veilstone at the ending. So bringing forth the Sea Dog's Tavern, that doesn't seem too crazy to me.
Technically, the mechanics of it are a little bit different. So in that case, Legend of the Veil, I mean, he's using one Veilstone to bring forth an entire Ghost Garrison, which is weaker because of two reasons. It's weaker because they only used one Veilstone to bring it forwards, and it's almost like it's kind of a forced memory. Like they're kind of forcing the memory of a giant fortress, you know?
I suppose, yeah.
And also in the Sea of the Damned, I mean, it's already been shown. I know this is a later on topic, but the ancients, when their people died and they went to the Sea of the Damned, they found their, sea of tribute like they always thought they would be there because they manifested that with their thoughts and memories. So it's probably that's literally what happened with Amaranta, is that she just thought it into existence.
The way I see it is that since they were physically in the Sea of the Damned and not the Sea of Thieves, like pulling something through, it was probably much easier to make something that huge and also that like twisted, distorted, demented, compared to the Ghost Garrison, which is just kind of a normal Spanish fort. And there's like some like ghostly elements to it, but nowhere near as much as like the twisted Sea Dog's Tavern.
Yep.
So I feel like while being in the Sea of the Damned, it is much easier to kind of create those thoughts into reality.
Absolutely.
Anything else to say about this?
I think the Sea of the Damned is just something we have so little information on like the particulars of how it works here or there, and I really just can't wait for more lore about it.
Before A Pirate's Life, if you told me we were going to explore it at all, I don't know that I would have believed you, because I just didn't see it as feasible. Like, it was, for so long, it was just some far-off thing in the art book, and now we're, like, really deep into the lore behind it, which is really crazy.
We're
actually going there, yeah.
It was awesome, yeah.
As for the gameplay for this adventure, this was probably one of the most controversial parts. Similar to Shrouded Deep, it's an arc finale, so the adventures go in arcs of 3, and the third one is always a bit more elaborate, a bit more of like a conclusion to the story arc. So similar to the Shrouded Deep, this one is kind of supposed to conclude Merrick's arc for the time being. And I think it does that pretty well, but as for the gameplay and being more elaborate, they bring back the lighthouses from A Pirate's Life and from Captains of the Damned, which is a mechanic I very much like. I really hope we see this in the overworld. I got the chance to ask Mike Chapman if we would ever see lighthouses in the overworld, and he kind of hinted at it, so, I really hope so. The thing about this adventure, though, not only was it not really well explained, kind of the structure of how we get to the top of this tavern and meet the Brethren to save Merrick, that was not really clear with the lighthouses, but also PvP was enabled. And that was the main thing that defined this adventure, and probably the most ironic, like, poetic design part about this adventure, a PvE event at the Sea Dog Tavern, a memory of arena, the PvP mode, full of these griefers ruining this adventure for anybody. And, wow. I'm going to let you say your experiences with this adventure, but the first experience I had at all was spent mostly trying to distract one crew from killing everyone, and we had to sacrifice our own ship just to get them to fuck off. The players were the biggest threat in this adventure, rather than the Dark Brethren themselves. Did you have any negative experiences on this adventure?
So first time through, first time through was actually really clean. It was great. We had some pretty new folks with us, but we went in, did the adventure, and we had a lot of fun. Honestly, me and my crew had a lot of fun. Second time though, I had heard about just pretty much what was going on. I was like, I'm gonna go in, and I'm just gonna kill the people who are being annoying, because I want to do PvP. So, kind of vigilante'd it.
Yeah.
And it was entertaining, sure. And the last time I went in was with, but my friend Soicho. Me and him went in. We grinded out some milestones because the phantoms there spawned infinitely. So we're doing that, and then we also got more TDMers there. So we were having fun. We were having fun.
The infinitely spawning phantoms too, like that, they didn't do, everybody just ran around them. Nobody ever fought them, so I kind of struggle to see why they were even implemented. It's very clear Rare was going for something here, where people, the whole community was going to team up, have some Avengers Endgame moment, and fucking try to save Merrick all at the top and help each other. I think they overestimate their own community,
Yeah.
and how their capacity for being nice.
They took a leap, and I admire that they took a leap, but
Definitely,
ooh.
yeah. If anything, like, I like that Rare's taking risks with all these adventures. They're forcing player cooperation, despite the fact that a lot of people don't want that and they want to be left alone. Fuck that. Sea of Thieves, since the beginning, literally the first update, has been a social experience. That is what makes this game interesting, at least to me. One question I have is why the Pirate Lord did not come in to help Merrick. And this is a question in a lot of appearances with the Pirate Lord is present. My answer to this is kind of the Pirate Lord has dialogue while you're scaling the tavern, and he's kind of commenting on how the portal needs to stay open or needs to close or whatever. So I was kind of thinking he's holding the portal open for pirates to come through until he can help us at the end. But like, why didn't he just go up at the end and help Merrick, like he does at the end anyway?
Yeah, no, I kind of get the feeling that the Pirate Lord might not want to he just doesn't want to get his hands dirty. That might be it. I mean,
For obvious reasons, it's Rare wanting to give players something to do.
agency, yeah.
Give players agency in the story, and not take up all the pirates in Sea of Thieves are supposed to be the main characters, not the actual main characters of the story. So I commend them for that, but I feel like at some point we might have to get an explanation of why the Pirate Lord, like, at least for Shores of Gold, because I still don't really understand that. Like, only after we kill the gold. Usually the explanation is the Pirate Lord wants to let pirates do things. He's retired. He doesn't really give a shit anymore. So, like, okay. But now he's actively involved again. Now there's like an actual war brewing, and the more he's involved in the story, I think maybe they should come up with some kind of explanation for this. Do you think I'm nitpicking,
Yes.
or do you agree?
I'm kind of in the middle. I think it's a good point, but I'm not sure.
I don't really give that much of a shit. I enjoy the story regardless, but like, it does kind of grate on me every time I think about it.
Yeah.
And after we kind of rescue Merrick, he, or quote unquote rescue, he explains to us that, hey, I'm glad you guys came, but these Brethren guys are going to keep chasing after me no matter what. Like, even if I come back to life, they're just going to kill me again, and potentially my family, so I have to disappear. And the Pirate Lord kind of takes him in, and Merrick requests that we deliver a letter for him. And we get to go to North Star Seapost, meet Sarek, and give her this letter. And I want to ask what you thought of this. I like the writing in Sea of Thieves, usually like the script writing, how the characters speak. I thought this was kind of hammy and cheesy, personally.
think it was cheesy and hammy, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was very sweet, and I think that's good that Sea of Thieves isn't afraid to kind of, have some nice little cheesy moments here or there.
Yeah, that's very fair. Like I do think it was a fitting end for his arc. I think the thing that made it kind of out of place for me, and the reason I didn't really latch onto it is because Merrick is a crazy, like usually drunk. I don't want to call him an idiot, but he's not smart. He's not well spoken by any means. He slurs every word that he says, and when he writes this letter, it's like he's a goddamn poet. And he's
That's true. You're right.
and when I was
Yeah.
listening to him speak, I was like, "This is not Merrick. He would never say this shit."
Yeah.
It's still a good ending though. Before we go to our final thoughts, one last thing I want to ask you, and I thought this was kind of, I don't want to say implied, but the likelihood of this feature coming is something that really excites me. I was not a fan of Arena, not really. It was a broken game mode. In many ways, both times they tried to go at it, and the load times just made it impossible to play. But now that we have this pretty quick to access portal feature, along with this new asset in the Ghost Sea Dog Tavern, what do you think about maybe when this DeMarco mystery is like actually concluded and he comes back, maybe he tries to bring back like the memory, this is just spitballing here, but what if he like brings back the memory of Arena as a in-adventure game mode? So in adventure you can vote to go into the portal and it'll matchmake you with people in the Sea of the Damned to just fight it out.
I think that'd be a great feature. I really do. It's just, it seems that Rare kind of, I feel like Rare's just kind of done with Arena, honestly.
You think so?
That. I think so, yeah.
The reason I say this is because a lot of the adventure features to me seem like they're teasing future content or testing the waters, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So Shrouded Deep gave us that Megalodon killing voyage. Whenever we get a Hunter's Call upgrade, what do you think they're going to use as a voyage? These things that are already in the game, that they've built for the adventures, for these time-limited story moments, but they can pay it forward with stuff in the future. And I think specifically for the ending, like the finale arcs, I kind of see that as maybe the most likely to get implemented as an actual feature, personally. Yeah. And again,
Especially
it's just
they do
you're
so
saying
much work for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of crazy they would go through all the effort for the Sea Dog Tavern and then it's only used for 2 weeks. And that's people's criticisms with a lot of adventures. So I definitely think they're thinking ahead about how they can re-implement this stuff. Maybe not as an actual arena game mode, but I think that would work pretty well personally. And I'm no game designer, but like, at least in my head, it sounds pretty good. And I don't even like arena. Final thoughts and where this adventure ranks among the rest for you. What is your overall conclusion you've come to a month and a half later about A Hunter's Cry? And where does it rank among the other ones?
I think it was great of Rare to take a leap like that and to take a risk on, making an adventure that's way more multiple crew oriented. And I think it's great of them to do that. It just kind of blew up in their face. And I
Indeed.
definitely, I feel for the devs that worked on that and then kind of had it all bastardized.
Yeah, I definitely agree about that.
I think even if there wasn't people to, what's the term? If there wasn't people to attack you in there. Yeah, I was trying to look for less harsh language.
I mean, they did kind of ruin it. They're just doing it because they're bored.
But no, I think that without that, it still might not have been one of my higher ranked adventures. I think it was alright overall. Like, I still think it's probably lower on the totem pole for me. Not nearly as low as Forts of the Forgotten, but
Thank you for saying
low.
that. Thank you for saying that. And confirming my own feelings.
Yeah.
I hate that adventure.
Oh, God.
Hunter's Cry, for me, I kind of definitely share your sentiments. Like, everyone had their own idea of, like, after Legend of the Veil, the Pirate Lord says, we may even come to use this little veil mask later on. Everybody had their own idea of what we would go back to the Sea of the Damned for, but I don't think anybody thought this. I do appreciate the work they put in, and the atmosphere of this adventure is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it is kind of an asset reflip. With the monthly adventures, there's only so much dev time they can really put into it, so I commend them for what they have done. But I feel like if you're going to use the Sea of the Damned again, it should be something really crazy and not... I don't want to say that the set piece wasn't cool, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like,
I do.
Comparatively to something new, this is the Sea Dog Tavern, which we've seen for 3-4 years now. 3 years. As for where it ranks, it is an arc finale. Like, there is the music. I didn't even mention the music. I mentioned the music in every single episode of Adventure Calls, and this episode will be no different because the music dynamically scales with the height you're at in this adventure.
That's
so
true. I thought that was incredible.
I thought that was great too. As you're scaling the lighthouses, the drums come in, and it just gets crazier and crazier. It feels even more hectic. And they're like, one thing I want to say about my final thoughts. They actually fixed this adventure. I don't want to say fixed because there was still a opportunity to have it fucked up for you, but the chances of that were significantly lowered because they made it so you can not only play it solo, but you can do it with just one other crew. So you're not having 5 crews in the Sea of the Damned all shooting each other. After playing the adventure again after this update, I would honestly say, like, just playing it solo, this did not need to be a multi-crew adventure. Like, the fact that when someone starts the final cutscene, not everyone is teleported there, and you can miss the final cutscene because some other Billy in the server started it. There's just some big flaws in the design in this one. I would kind of rank it... The first 2 adventures are probably my least favorite. I do like them, but... right? And that ranks just above those. That's all I have to say. Pretty much what you said, and like, I don't know. I really hope for the next arc finale, or even the next like multi-crew adventure, they really learn from this. Because if they don't, I think people will be even more mad than they were with this, and they were very mad with this one. The only other criticism I have before we move on, so I don't mean to ramble about this, but there wasn't that much lore in this adventure. Like, the story didn't progress that much forward. Like, we knew that Merrick died a month before this came out, and then after this, what really changed? He's still dead.
I was thinking about that. There really just wasn't much development. I mean, there was...
If anything, this was the Dark Brethren's time to shine. This was their moment to be back in the story for however knows long. Like, I don't think we're going to see them again for another year or so.
I doubt that personally, but I think...
At least in a big way like this. Like, I don't think until the start of next summer, really, that we're going to see them again.
Yeah. I do think, though, that they're doing their job. They're absolutely doing their job, because the Dark Brethren, in my eyes, has always been this kind of rogue, like, force compared to the really organized Flameheart versus... Like, they literally, I mean, it's in their thesis, they don't care about power or anything. They just want to burn the Sea of Thieves down because it betrayed them, which is a really interesting motivation. Indeed, yeah.
I do like the Dark Brethren a lot as characters, and Duke even more so after reading this novel. Like, wow! Woo! I have to do a Heart of Fire episode at some point, and I would love if you join me, because I gotta talk about Duke at some point. That whole thing is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's it for Hunter's Cry. I don't really have anything else to say about it. We kind of said our piece.
Yeah.
Got ruined by sweaters, as everything in Sea of Thieves. And on to Siren's Prize, I suppose. So Siren's Prize is much less about the gameplay, but we get a heap of story. Oh my God, we've like the day that this came out, I was reading some of the stuff that we learned through the wiki on my phone, and I was like, "Whoa, what? What the?
Yeah, it's so much. It's great. I love it.
It's kind of hard to wrap my head around some of this, and I hope you can help me out here a little bit. So the adventure starts in the trailer, where Belle, in Stitcher Jim's lair of all places, finds a prophecy from the ancients that states the revival of the flame, I wonder who that is, will be foreshadowed by a herald to the flame. I wonder who that... In order to stay one step ahead of his forces, Belle sends pirates out to the Sunken Kingdom to retrieve a force capable of standing up to Flameheart. So the gameplay is pretty much go to shrine, collect item, go back. And that is
the next shrine, yeah.
And then you go to the next shrine. And that is like Sea of Thieves is a fetch quest game. This isn't anything new, and I'm not going to hold the adventure down for this because this is just usually how Sea of Thieves works. But there wasn't any real special mechanic. Like I said, it was mostly story based. So, do you have anything to say about the gameplay?
I think the gameplay overall was. See, I'm a Siren Shrine enjoyer.
Me too. Yes.
So I was so happy to have a really good reason, like adventure where we went back there. So I enjoyed it, and between this and the mystery's conclusion, I think I was eating good. But I think if we're talking about the trailer still, I think the Herald is really interesting.
I want to ask you about this at the end. Personally.
Yeah. Okay. We'll
touch on that, but at the finale.
We'll get there when we get there. Yeah.
I like that we have a reason to go to the Sunken Kingdom again too. Season 4 for me was pretty underrated, but I do understand the criticisms totally because they're true. There isn't really a reason to go back there. I go back there when I get a coral bottle voyage, for example, but like when you're out on the adventures, you have to force someone on your ship. You either have to go down there solo and your ship's done, or you have to make someone on your crew stop playing the game and just sit and watch the horizon. And that's not fun for anybody.
To be fair, with my crew, we kind of had this mentality of all of us go or none of us go,
Yeah, like I do the same thing, and every time we do that, we sink. Probably every single time. Which is probably my fault. Yeah, it is the nature of it, and I do hope we see more content here in the future, because there are ways to make the Sunken Kingdom viable. I just don't know what ways those are.
I actually have a few ideas around that, if you don't mind me talking about that for a second. I think
go off.
If we could have, say, Gold Hoarder missions that led you towards the shrines, where you'd have to, maybe not dig up chests, but do riddles in the shrines, I think that would be great.
Oh, definitely.
I think having Order of Souls voyages to go fight, like, a particular ocean crawler or achieve a particular cursed captain's skull, that'd be great. Or, hell, like, merchants, they could have their ships sunken near you'd have to go down to one of the shrines and you'd find the merchant ship being dragged inside, kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be like an extension of those voyages, because around each shrine there's like shipwrecks being destroyed everywhere. You could easily just reskin some of those to be merchant stuff.
Yeah, you could have one floating around with like some chains leading it in, and you could have to cut the chains or whatever. I think that'd be very fun. I think that'd be a great way to, like, if you're doing a normal voyage, personally, I still will, if they're in the course, go that way to go to a shrine, but I think it'd be great to have, like, a full-on reason to go down
Indeed,
there.
Yeah. This is a slight tangent. It's kind of related. I just gotta get it off my chest. Why the fuck does Order of Souls still only sell skeleton quests? Phantoms are representations of souls in the Sea of Thieves. Ocean crawlers and sirens are disturbed, twisted pirates in the Sea of Thieves. They could so easily make Order of Souls voyages to hunt down skeletons, phantoms, and ocean crawlers. Why is this not a thing yet? I don't understand. Order of Souls is the most bland faction in the game. Needs an update. Mike Chapman, I know you're listening to me right now. Put it in the game. Put it in the game.
Manifest them. Great. You just need to. Where's the Chapman summoning circle?
Oh, I have it in my closet. Don't say it.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
One thing about the gameplay of this voyage, before we move on to the story additions, when you grab the I don't want to say MacGuffin, but like the item of this adventure, when you grab that, ancients will spawn and ocean crawlers will spawn, and they'll start having this big fight. The thing is, this is extremely easy to miss. Every time you get the ancient artifact, you're in a different room from where they're fighting. So this huge set piece starts, and you're not even there. And by the time you reach whatever room it's in, it's already concluded. So you didn't even get to see it.
That's a bit of a shame.
It could have been cool, and I don't even like. the Ancients fighting mechanic is already pretty bare bones, but like it can make for some cool imagery. I just don't.
Hmm.
I just think it was kind of squandered in this. After we get all those items, the ancient artifacts, also known as the voice, the dreams, and the eyes of the ancients. Is that correct? I think that's right.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
After we retrieve these, give them to the ancient priest in each of the shrines, Belle explains to us what she's actually been trying to do this whole time, because she explains it in the trailer, but not in the adventure until you give her all the items. And she explains that Flameheart's revival is very soon, wink wink, and she is trying to create a force capable of stopping him and rallying pirates together. So, after she combines all the artifacts together on Plunder Valley, the island that this adventure takes place, we have to run to the very top to the priest site, where like the warrior insignia is, the warrior cave painting, and the ancient priest with the veil mask is attempting to revive the great warrior of the ancients. This is a big reveal. I was not expecting this.
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a Soul Flame Captain fight, the same one from Legend of the Veil. Okay, that fight is kind of wearing its welcome in my opinion. But
There's some new dialogue, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, the health is increased. I don't know. It's a bit iffy. Now,
you're saying
you want me to segue into this because this is a really interesting topic to me.
the tablets, or because I do want to say like two more.
The
Oh,
different
okay.
Warriors.
Yes, there
So-
are multiple warriors. I'll let you do this. I just want
Yeah.
to say this.
There's different priests, different warriors. So yeah.
There, at first we only really knew of one warrior of the ancients that we would like see around the Sea of Thieves. Then we learn about another one, and then we learn about even more. And there's also multiple priests, and the fact that they reuse the same models really doesn't help at all.
Nope.
And in fact, it just makes it a lot worse.
Yeah.
And modeling is difficult. That's a very difficult. So I don't blame them for wanting to reuse assets, but please kind of
Right.
create unique designs for some of these guys. At least a
Um,
little. What did you want to say
Yeah,
about
so here-
which warrior is this?
So we have a few. I'm trying to find my notes on this. Basically, we have. I think there's 3 warriors. We have the original Great Warrior. These are the ones we know of, anyways. It's
Yes.
possible there was many, 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 many more because the ancients were in the Sea of Thieves for a while.
There was like many warriors.
Yeah. So
But go on.
the Great Warrior was the first one. He was the first one to take up that mantle.
Yep. And this is the one we
Then-
revive.
Yes, this is the one we revived, the original one.
Yep.
The Fallen Warrior is the one that would go on to, consort with the Siren Queen and become the Siren King.
Okay, yeah, I figured that much. And there's
So-
also a warrior after that who put the sirens to rest.
The Warrior of Sorrow, and she's really interesting because not only does it show that the ancients kind of didn't care about gender when it came to
Yeah.
warriors and all that, it also was really interesting because in putting the sirens to sleep, she cursed herself with what seems to be very virulent coral curse, or the curse of sunken sorrow. Because it's crazy, you're in that room with her, or at least this is from the scholar's notes in that same story in Legend of the Sunken Kingdom. You're in that room with her for like a few minutes, and you get that fucking curse. So
Oh, that reveal is just so cool. The way they did
and
that.
so yeah, it's very deadly. It's very very deadly. The priests are interesting as well. So there's one priest that was around during the Fallen Warrior, and he got killed. He got 100%
Yep.
killed when he tried to poison the
with the
Fallen,
poison
with
arrow.
He was thrown off a cliff and pretty much just murdered.
Yeah,
Then,
by the fallen warrior.
yes. And then we have another priest, which was our Legend of the Veil priest trying to
Bridge the worlds.
bridge the worlds, yes. Which was, obviously not something that he should have done, as the memory of him tells us. But interestingly, this is the same priest that that would keep the gate open for the ancients to go into the Sea of the Damned. He was the same priest that did that.
Yeah. And also the one who is doing the ritual to revive the great warrior that we see in this adventure.
I thought that was a different
I mean, he's
priest.
wearing the mask.
He
Again,
is.
this is why the models really need
Yeah.
something, because we know that there's multiple of these characters. So if we're going to be reusing the same asset, we can't do that. That makes things way too confusing and
So
convoluted.
here's the issue with that. Here's my issue with that. Is that we can say that, but that that priest that we see in this adventure, he speaks of I have the exact tablet here.
Oh, you're
and
right. You're
we're trying
right.
to
Yeah.
attribute. He says a temple, once a site of great power, was also cast into the abyss. Such was the nature of our hubris. One of my kin even sought to merge the worlds entirely. So it's not him doing that. It was
That's so
someone-
confusing.
It is, and the usage of one of my kin either denotes it's possible that it was a past priest or that it was another priest at the same time. So it's
I think the way he says it probably just means someone from the past.
yeah, maybe.
But God,
I
that
think
is really
it's
confusing.
confusing. Yeah, yeah.
I knew that they left
Um,
behind certain ancients and a priest to keep the portal open for all of them, but like,
Yes.
dude, what? I can't wrap my head around. Never, doesn't matter. Do we want to get onto the tablets?
Yes, I would love to.
All right, sweet. So in the first shrine, I actually don't know which shrine this is. Give me 2 minutes. This is the Shrine of Ocean's Fortune. In the Shrine of Ocean's Fortune, I kind of just wrote bulleted lists. I didn't write the
Right.
exact text. So what we learn is the great warrior was the first of his kind and even inspired the ancients to always have a warrior among them. He taught people to hunt. He had a thirst for war, which he would help strategize with like great priests and the king and stuff. And we hear a lot of like larger than life folktale stories about the warrior.
Yes.
And I really, really like these. This was such a treat to read for me because when the great warrior was born, his cry was so loud that the setting sun rose again just to see who was making all the noise. Within one night, he turned into a boy from a little fucking stupid baby, and he became immediately so hungry that he fought a giant boar, and instead of actually fighting it, he just swung it into a cooking pot, and he didn't even eat any because the fight satiated him. That, like...
Yeah. It's so those larger than life stories. I really like them because they're really reminiscent of Native American and Mesoamerican stories.
Yeah.
So, and I have a great friend of mine. I have a great friend of mine who is rather dark brethren oriented.
Okay.
They
I think I got a good idea.
they're of their family. You know, they're of Mayan descent, and so when we first read these stories, me and them we were kind of like, they were kind of like, dude, this is so good. This reminds me exactly of stories from my culture, and it's a great.
Oh, that's so cool.
It kind of shows that that Rare did their homework almost, I think, and I definitely enjoy it. It's great.
Yeah, if you look at some of the art design of the ancients too, it's very like Mesoamerican inspired. Like even the swords they use, I don't know the
Yes.
exact name
So,
for it, but that's like a very ancient tool.
I could go on a whole tangent about those, but the Macahuitlis, those are a very, very amazing sword design from the Mayan, Aztec, Olmec, all of those
Yeah.
really. It's such an amazing sword design. It's so simple and so deadly.
It doesn't
because-
look like it would at all. Like it looks like it would scrape you and kind of
Yeah, but with how sharp obsidian is, and
Right.
there were accounts from Spanish conquistadors that they'd kind of, granted, a lot of these stories were embellished to make it sound like what they were doing over in South America was a lot bigger than it was. But
Yeah.
there are accounts of basically with one swing from a Macahuitli, a Aztec soldier had chopped a horse's head off.
Jesus.
So, beyond being very sharp, basically with I won't go on a whole tangent, but obsidian very sharp, and if it fractured while hitting you, God forbid,
Get stuck
it would
in
act
your
it would
skin.
act like shrapnel. It would be like a rip round.
Jeez.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you for the history lesson. That was actually interesting.
I find the weapon so interesting, and I just got the actual weapon in game a couple of weeks ago, so I'm
Oh,
happy.
I gotta grind more Legend of the Veils to get those cosmetics.
Good luck.
Gotta do 100, guys. After hearing of a deadly kraken named Many Arms, which is probably the worst name for a kraken you could ever... Jesus Christ. The Great Warrior took a bowl and intended to drink the entire ocean just to kill it. Sailors had to plead with him not to, because that's where they live, is the sea. So he just grabbed the kraken by its many arms and gave it to the king as a pet. One thing I want to ask you about this, because I did think this was interesting. Now, I mean, we've kind of always known there was multiple krakens. It's almost been like a Sea of Thieves Mandela effect quote from A Shiny Ray, like that we always thought there was only one kraken, and that was like the remainder of the kin of the Old Mother. But now we know there's obviously multiple, and even the Siren Queen's quote unquote daughter that Davy Jones was controlling seems to be a different kraken than the one that hides its head away.
So that kraken is a much older specimen that probably existed pretty early on. And shoot, that might actually be Many Arms. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's a very old kraken. Is the point? And the reason it hides its head, obviously, is because of the battle. Athena's
fortune.
But the Siren Queen's kraken, that's a different one. That's actually a younger one by quite a far margin because of the size difference.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So the Siren Queen's kraken, her daughter, is way smaller, and I wouldn't say juvenile because it's had this long to mature, but I mean, maybe it still is, maybe it isn't. It's kind of hard to tell.
Because we don't really know enough about krakens.
Right, so...
It's mostly speculation. Do you think we could see more types of krakens in the future as like actual encounters? Because the one megalodon fight, I know we have multiple megalodons, but it's one fight pretty much.
Yeah.
And the one kraken fight, I think people are getting kind of old of it, and I'm people. So
I think that'd be a great addition. I just can't say what's in the cards, whether or not, you know.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of hard to. I think if they do a Hunter's Call expansion, that will be coming with it. But that's pretty big if. So. I'm not sure if they're expanding that part of the game or not.
I would really hope so. It's such a minor part of the game, and it's supposed to kind of be the bread and butter. This is not the correct terminology. It's supposed to be the glue between your voyages, kind of a side activity instead of the main course. But it's still an important part of the game. It's one of the main factions. And now that Merrick is dead and was a very big part of the story, I think they're probably going to focus on that in a bit. I would hope so.
Yeah.
Another journal in the Shrine of Ocean's Fortune tells us that many from across the Sea of Thieves attempted to train with the Great Warrior, but none of them could best him. So the warrior asked Patient Turtle who he should battle. Patient Turtle is in the stars as one of the constellations in the Sea of Thieves, and is a general legend among the ancients. Someone with great knowledge, as far as we know. The Patient Turtle said it could only be someone with equal strength or skill. So the warrior fought his own he fought the water for he just punched the water for 10 days and nights. He fought his own reflection, and his reflection fled. Cannot speak today. I like this again. Like, I'm running out of compliments to give these stories because these larger than life, like folktale stories, they're definitely exaggerated from the ancients' perspective to make their own tales sound greater. At least that's the implication I got, is that they're exaggerating these stories. But they're still very cool. Like, it's a style of writing we've never seen in Sea of Thieves, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Like, so heavily exaggerating these course of events. And that's something I love. Or even the warrior is just that crazy that he just does all this. He actually does all this shit.
Yeah,
which is even crazier and harder to believe.
I can only think of, just whenever he was talking about finding his reflection, I only think of like that one gif of the JoJo character just punching his fucking reflection. That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Once the Great Warrior's time was up, quote unquote, the king opened a doorway for the warrior he opened a doorway for the warrior of countless golden steps into the stars. The warrior now awaits among the stars, protecting the ancients. And we later learn in another journal this is actually a lie.
It's a lie!
It was a lie the whole time! And we and we were and we were told. I guess they spread this story among the ancients so that people wouldn't worry.
Right. Yeah, it seems like, much like any larger government, they kind of didn't want their people worrying too much.
Yeah, and they say more about that later, which we'll get into. The next shrine is the Shrine of Ancient Tears, and this one we're going to talk about the least, because in a previous episode about the Pirate's Life Tall Tale Sunken Pearl, we went in a crazy amount of detail about the Whispering Plague, and I've also made a video about the Whispering Plague. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I've discussed everything that we really know, and they just kind of
a lot of retread of that information for context, probably.
Yeah,
I'd have to guess.
Just to reverberate the kind of information from the ancients' perspective, and I think it gives us a better timeline as to like when did the ancients know about this stuff, because we even learned that like while the Whispering Plague was spreading, it was still under the waves, and the ancients were pretty unaware of the turmoil going on until they rose to the surface. So stuff like that is good to know, but it's still the same information we've been hearing for a year now. I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah. I do enjoy the new information though, which is basically Siren Queen stole the Great Warrior's remains after the king's kind of domains sank into the ocean.
Indeed, yeah. I really liked that reveal too.
Yeah, and his soul was bound to his bones, which is super interesting because it shows that ancients had binding magic. This isn't a brand new thing.
Yeah.
He basically was just kind of kept as like a genie in the bottle, almost.
Yeah, they kept him as the actual quote is that he signed an oath to the. Well, I don't know that that's the actual quote, but he signed an oath to the royal family, like his existence would be for their. I don't want to say pleasure. That sounds awful. For their
gain.
for their
Like,
gain, yeah,
them.
to protect the ancient kings and queens. So his spirit would not be permitted rest. Much like the ancient weapons they kept in the Sea of the Damned, he would be kept in case they ever needed summoning again. And it was a royal secret between the family, which is why they didn't tell the ancient populace about where the warrior had been.
Later on, when the queens learned of the warrior, or like when the queen learned of the warrior's fate, they wanted to release his soul, but his bones were kind of scattered. Like they were kind of
all over the sea,
the
Sunken Kingdom.
He was kind of just bound to his skull, so luckily we were able to recover that. And I will say, the fact that much of a storm spins up just because we're trying to unbind a soul shows that I don't think Pendragon could have done it, and I don't think that I think that ancient binding rituals must have been one hell of a ride, because if literally unbinding him caused that much of a storm, then it's just crazy. Like, it must have been some really strong magic to break.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. The thing is, like, when Flameheart got revived, or his soul was released, I should say, because he has yet to be revived, it did not cause a storm. It was over in a 3-second cinematic of Pendragon falling on the floor.
And even then, Pendragon struggled with that. I mean, it took a lot of his energy to do that.
That's very fair. But I kind of view Flameheart's soul as, like, I don't want to say it's equal to the ancient warrior that did so much, but I do want to say that that's still, like, I don't want to say that it's a retcon that that this huge storm was caused, because it's obvious they just wanted to create a cool set piece, cool cutscene kind of thing. But I wonder, I'm just kind of thinking, what's the deal here? Compared to like other times we've seen this happen. When Pendragon got released from his painting, that did not happen. When Flameheart got released, that did not happen. So what's going on here?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's a difference in binding magic, or strength of binding magic.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, it's such a small point, it really does not matter. And I guess the ancients did not have enough time to retrieve the warrior before they left to the Sea of Tribute. And I
interpreted it as that happening after they were in the Sea of Tribute.
Well, the Sea of Tribute is in the Sea of the Damned, so they would have no way to look for the warrior if not in the Sea of Thieves.
Because the way they talk about it, I mean, it's years after for the Siren Queen to have claimed it, it would have been after they
That's
were
definitely
gone.
true, yeah.
So I think it's something that happened way after they left.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just, like, I don't see when they could have looked.
Yeah.
They did say that travel between the worlds was very much, not forbidden, but they could only do it sparingly because it would cause calamity if they did not. So maybe at some point before Ramsey arrived back in the Sea of Thieves, like the ancients maybe came back just 1 or 2 times to look for him. That's not really, like, that's just pure speculation. We have no way.
That's a good point, though, yeah. That's a good point.
And the last shrine is the Shrine of Tribute. And this is where the fallen warriors' remains are, if I'm not mistaken, right? The one by Thieves Haven.
Yeah. This is the remains of the Sunken warrior.
Yeah, not fallen warrior. It's so confusing.
I know. That's why we gave them different names. So Fallen Warrior is our Siren King.
Okay.
Sunken Warrior is our Siren
I always
Slayer.
thought that as like the Warrior of the Deep, because that's what the voyage is called.
Yeah.
Not that it really matters. For the Shrine of Tribute, I think these might be my favorite journals personally, because these give us probably the biggest lore dump about where these ancients have been. The ancients, at some point, not really given specifics, begin to dream of the dead, being told of unfinished business, secrets, and just all sorts of arcane knowledge beyond human understanding. And the dreams even spoke of events that wouldn't come for years. This specific information, huge fan of, because when I heard that there would be a prophecy of the ancients in Sea of Thieves, my immediate first reaction was, oh no, what are they doing to the story? What are they doing? Because prophecies, in my opinion, are usually a kind of cheap, easy way to get people to know information they shouldn't, or to spoil the story and make it seem, not even spoil the story, but make it seem like it was all preordained. And that really ruins the course of events. But the prophecy itself is only about Flameheart being revived. Everybody knows this is going to happen. This is no question. So it's not really something to be upset about. And also there's a in-universe reason for why this would happen, and not just the ancients just pulled it out of their ass and they just came up with, this Flameheart guy, we don't even know who he is, but you know he's going to come back one day.
He's coming.
He's coming. But we have an actual, not only is it addition to Sea of the Damned lore and a better understanding of that world, but it's an actual fucking understanding for this stupid story trope that every other story under the sun that includes a prophecy just wants to wave it away or like use it nonchalantly. But they actually put thought into how this would logistically work.
And I'm so happy about that,
yeah. Like, when I see that kind of thing introduced into a story, my immediate response is like, we gotta rethink this. Like, this might...
Panic.
Yeah. And that was my first reaction upon seeing the prophecy, but I'm totally cool with it now. I think the way it was introduced was actually cool. And I hope it comes to fruition in some cool way. The ancients, after doing some discovery, came across the Sea of the Damned, and there's no ferryman at this point, so they spent a lot of effort trying to bridge the worlds to learn of like lost treasures that dead people had, to help loved ones come back, stuff like that. And it took many generations, but apparently they succeeded. They note just how dangerous the Sea of the Damned is, where one stray thought could totally destroy anything and everything. So they hid weapons of mass destruction, treasure, and ancient artifacts in the Sea of the Damned. A temple as well was cast, and they called it the Sea of Tribute. And this is...
they didn't call it the Sea of the Damned. They called it, for them, it was the Sea of Tribute, because when their group died there, and they expected to find, what they spoke of in their culture being a, paradise, it's what they got. They got a perfect paradise, and so that was called the Sea of Tribute, and I assume that's where they live now.
Yeah, that's where they've been for thousands of years.
I find it really funny, though, that they accidentally cast an entire temple. They were like, oops, shit, I fucking dropped it. It's in the Sea of the Damned now. Oops.
And this also leads credence to something that occurs in Heart of Fire, not going to go too into this, but in the Sea of the Damned, there is a ship of the ancients called the Ophelia. It's not actually called that. It's what the crew of the Morning Star calls it. Doesn't matter.
Yes,
But
after
it's a thing is, haven't reached this part of the book yet, so my knowledge on this is a little bit
it's good.
Wafty, but it was capable of I don't want to say ignoring, preventing cursed cannonballs from taking effect, and apparently it's a pretty magnificent ship.
It was, and it's really interesting because it had cannons, it had it had modern ship stuff, which shows the ancients were, at least by the end of their time, pretty friggin' advanced.
Yeah, that's very true. And just if you go to Shores of Gold, you can't go there and be like, yeah, these guys are stupid.
Right.
They don't know anything. The architecture for sure is something that continues to impress me.
Marvel.
Yeah. I actually like the video that you guys made on the ancient architecture, which I'll link.
To redo that.
I'll link that below the like button.
Awesome. Yeah, but I need to redo that because there's still some issues, and obviously you've got a lot more ancient.
Oh, of course.
Now, so
trying to create like video guides of or video explanations about Sea of Thieves continuously proves harder and harder because things just keep getting bigger, and you got to go back and retouch the same ground. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. And the last rune in this last shrine mentions the Veil of the Ancients and how it was created. A mask with 3 stones. That's all they... I don't even think they say how many stones. It just says stones. So the idea that there are multiple stones for the Veil of Ancients is still up in the air. They used it to bring their race into the Sea of Tribute with only one staying behind. Or a few staying behind, like the ancient priest who kept the portal open and some ne'er-do-wells. The mask was fed to the Shrouded Ghost and the stones were scattered. And that's
a way to make sure that no one else followed him in, yeah. I find it really interesting. So they had the Royal Guard and the priest stay there. And I don't know, it's hard to tell if this priest is really our same priest or if that's a different priest. I don't know. It's very hard to tell.
By that, do you mean the priest who is like in the shrines of this adventure and does the ritual, or a different
I feel like Mike Chapman needs to, either we need to get a Trivia Tuesday tweet or we need Mike Chapman because we need some clarification. Because a lot of this is... Yeah.
I know there's only so much lead time for these devs to put stuff into the game, but I feel like one of the #1 complaints about the Sea of Thieves story is that like things aren't properly elaborated on until way later, beyond when anybody cares. Like Shrouded Islands comes out. So many islands on the Sea of Thieves... Not so many, like 4 or 5 islands on the Sea of Thieves are completely shrouded in fog. Not until like 4 months later did we learn why that even happened in Lost Sands. Stuff like that. Like, I don't think it would have been difficult to explain the Dark Relic thing back then. And maybe...
I think a part of it is... Sorry, I know I...
No, don't worry about
it. You off. Apologies. I think a part of it is that they're working with a very long-term live service.
Oh,
here.
Definitely.
So, like, 10 years after release, so 2028 is probably where we're looking at to be the end of Sea of Thieves. And so they can't tell us everything because, you know, that's...
And that's not what I expect, of course. Like, I don't want them to reveal everything. It's just
but
like...
with that also comes these issues of, you know, not... Like, these story issues of basically having things just for a little bit being completely unanswerable.
Entirely. It's good to keep a mystery, but when there are plot points relevant to the adventure we're currently doing, and we can't answer questions about why shit is happening, that is... I don't like that.
It's angering. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Like, and trying to... I play with a crew who don't really digest the story like I do. Like, they get the story from me. Or, like, the little they do understand from Sea of Thieves, because they don't like reading journals, they just watch the cutscenes and like the dialogue. So it makes it even harder for me, because my friends will ask me this kind of shit, and I'm like, sorry, I can't help you, because even I don't know, and I lose sleep over this stuff. And the devs do a very good job delivering the story, but sometimes I just think, how do they not think ahead about, like, maybe people will get confused with how many priests there are.
Yeah.
It's not a huge deal, but it has made
would've
this
been
adventure
nice.
quite confusing for me to understand.
Yeah.
One question I have, how did Belle come in contact with the Ancients? I have my own explanation, and I'm going to say mine and give you the opportunity if you have a different one. We still don't really know a lot about Belle, believe it or not, and we're...
I want more.
I
want
know,
more.
And she's been in 5 adventures, I think?
Yeah.
5 adventures sounds right. And we still really don't know anything about her. She's always there to help us out, but I want to sit down and have a story time or something. All we know about her is that she has an understanding, some mastery of the Sea of the Damned, because that's where she's been this whole time. And the Ancients have also been there this whole time. So I guess maybe they crossed paths at one point, and this just gives me more questions about Belle than anything, because Belle could not have arrived at the Sea of Thieves before the Pirate Lord, so within the last 40 years, she just had to be a normal pirate, and then You think so?
I have a very stringent theory about Belle that I really am super happy about.
I
and I call
want
it
to hear it, but let me finish mine real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
I think she was a normal pirate, and then through some means or other, similar to like the ferryman, she became entangled with the Sea of the Damned and preferred to travel there from then on. And the reason she's hundreds of years old is just because she's been there for so long, and time works differently, much slower in the Sea of the Damned.
Yeah.
That was my theory. What was yours?
But I have my favorite theory is Belle is a hippocampus.
Okay. I know
So-
the mythical creature. I don't
Yes.
know
So
a
in Sea of
human
Thieves,
being a hippocampus.
in Sea of Thieves, they with the figurehead and a lot of other things. There's this idea that the hippocampus would guide souls in the Sea of the Damned. It was the original guide for those who died. And it was this mythical helping figure from the Sea of the Damned and of the Sea of the Damned. And thus, that's why the fairy has it as a emblem, and that's, I think...
Yep.
I think the reason that Belle is so otherworldly is because she is a hippocampus. She is a spirit of the Sea of the Damned, a protector. And she's kind of come to assist, as you may guess. And that's why she has that pennant as well. That's the hippocampus.
Yep.
Because it's probably just another little hint of that. And also the barnacles and the sea detailing also very interesting, because she's not explicitly deep in the ocean, she's just deep in the Sea of the Damned.
I mean, to counter that, just to play devil's advocate, she does dive everywhere she goes to get where
You're
she
right.
goes. I do.
You're right.
I think that's where the barnacles came from. Your theory
You're
certainly
right.
isn't bad. My question
And
is
I
like,
know.
how does the Pirate Lord know her? Stuff like that. Like,
Right. Believe me, I know that it's a stringent theory, and I know that it's real far out from being possible, but it's just a little theory I've always kept with me, and I like it a lot.
no, it's certainly. I'll be thinking about that for a while. Thank you for sharing. I think we have to learn more about Belle before we can really
Absolutely.
create, because we're just throwing darts at a board trying to come up with anything because we still don't have anything. I think maybe I want to say by season 10 maybe we'll know more about Belle, but maybe that's wishful thinking. Yeah, right.
So far off.
That's like the middle of next summer.
Yep.
That 10th season better be crazy. That's the 5th anniversary of Sea of Thieves. I'll be waiting. Anything else you want to say about the adventure? We already
don't
talked
think
about the
so.
prophecies, but the one thing I want
Yeah.
to say about the prophecy: who is the Herald of the Flame? We got 2 options, in my opinion. Harry Harkley, one of the protagonists of Harry Harkley, one of the protagonists of Heart of Fire, the new Sea of Thieves novel, who turns into an Ashen Lord and becomes goes from being just a kind of jaded asshole pirate into a devout follower of Flameheart who would literally sacrifice his own crew just to get in good with him. That seems likely to me. Someone who's going to bring about the revival of this fucking crazy skeleton lord. Harry dies at the end of that book, but it seems he sinks at the end of the book,
He
right?
sinks, yeah.
He sinks. That's
So
and a
either-
man made of fire sinking to me kind of sounds like dying, but who knows? I'm thinking
there's
either
a
him.
really angry little Ashen Lord at the bottom of the sea, or he's called his way back up just now. Perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. As soon as the book comes out 9 years later, he's like, "Now is the time to get my revenge." And the other option I can really think of, like, it could be any one of the Ashen Lords, but none of those guys really have the same development as Harry, who we spent an entire book with, or Stitcher Jim, one of the main characters of the Flameheart arc, who was supposed to turn into an Ashen Lord, and we have not seen him since. In the role-playing book, it says it says the ritual failed, and he is out there somewhere. But the more and more I think about Stitcher Jim's fate, we might have to spend 10 minutes talking about Stitcher Jim. Here we go.
We might.
Because it's so rough. Stitcher Jim, the role-playing book says he failed. But if we're going to think about where Stitcher Jim goes in the future, because Mike Chapman has repeatedly said he's coming back, watch this space, Stitcher Jim will be involved in the monthly adventures. So I'm thinking, what is a natural story progression for Stitcher Jim? He either turns into the devout Flameheart follower, that seems likely, even though the role-playing book says otherwise. I know that the extra universe content is canon, but they can switch that on a dime. Who knows?
And also, it's important to note that idea that the ritual failed is pirate based. A pirate says that.
Ooh, okay.
So it's anecdotal. It's anecdotal. No one.
I don't think
truly knows.
At this point, I don't think that
probably.
information is that useful then, or we should stick to it. Thank you for that information. I didn't even know that. I've just been hearing people throw around Stitcher Jim is not an Ashen Lord, and I'm like, is that really true? I don't know.
People parrot that a lot. They parrot a lot. People parrot a lot of things.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Sea Thieves community does not understand lore. I know all the lore. I make the story, and these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
So as I wanted to get to, either he turns into the devout Flameheart follower. I was thinking he could side with the Dark Brethren, but there's one problem with that. Wanda is there.
Wanda would beat his ass.
That is the thing. That is the thing. Stitcher Jim would fit very well in the Brethren. He got betrayed by Flameheart, much like Wanda, much like Duke, but he has so many conflicting characters in that group that he would not belong there at all. And the Dark Brethren is supposed to be a place of like ironic belonging. Castaways, like ironic belonging. And he would not fucking fit there because Wanda hates that boy and Duke certainly does not like that boy. So I think it's pretty easy to say that he would not join the Brethren.
Nope.
And then I started thinking, okay, what if he just goes out on his own and like tries to get vengeance against Flameheart? I see this as also kind of likely, but this one's just as much up in the air as like the curse.
Cool story arc would be if he joined Athena's Fortune.
The thing is, like, Stitcher Jim is just such a rat. He is such a piece of shit. Like, I'm serious. If you read Athena's Fortune, he pretty much, aside from Rathbone, sets the course of that story just by giving the map to the Sea Thieves out. He like steals all of Ramsay's belongings at Thieves Haven with his gang. He's not even a real pirate. He's like a gang of criminals. That's fucked up. And Stitcher Jim, like, he's just a dick. I don't gotta explain. He's a fucking dick.
Yeah,
go play the Tall Tales, you piece of shit. And I want to see him in the story again. He needs a conclusion to his arc because for 2.5 years now, it's been up in the air. And as kind of to bring back to the point in this adventure, Rare delivering on story beats in a proper fashion. Where's Stitcher Jim, bruh? Where? It's been 2.5 years. I like giving Rare some credit when they. I don't want to say that's a mistake that they haven't delivered on this story arc. We know why, because Pirate's Life, and they wanted to stop making Tall Tales because they're not replayable. But
or no, yeah.
I don't see that as an excuse to not further Stitcher Jim's story. There's so many places they could have brought him back. But enough about that. Like, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, overall, I think the ancient reveals, though, I think all of it, the new lore, the reveal where they went, I think it's just wonderful.
You do?
Think it's easily. Yeah, I really love the new ancient reveals. I love the new ancient story. Loved it.
I am pretty happy with almost all of the information. The one thing I'm still kind of iffy on is just the fact that they're back and that they're alive at all. Maybe this was like just a poor interpretation of the story, or wishful thinking, I kind of hoped the Sea of Thieves story would most of the time be we're just following in the footsteps of those who came before, and the ancients actually died forever, and we have a permanent life and death cycle on the Sea of Thieves where people can come back. But I just liked the idea that, like, these people with extreme knowledge about every single secret in this world, I don't want to say every secret, but you know what I mean. They know everything about all the magic, about, like, probably where the Krakens came from, like, all these questions that are up in the air that we want to know, and I've been waiting years for. These characters who know everything are back. And that, it's going to be very hard for the writers in the future to, like, it's like there's rat traps all over the floor.
Right. See, I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't think that, I don't think they're back. I think they're probably going to stay in their little Sea of Tribute, and broadly, they're not going to pop out that much, really. You know, like, they're going to pop in here or there just to intervene, to take care of things, but other than that, I think that they, I think they don't really, I think they're going to be more of, like, this overarching,
force.
Like, yeah, they're going to be watching, like, observers, almost. And so
I would be okay with that, but that also, like, every time we see them in the story in the future from this point, I feel like it's just going to raise questions about, like, why didn't they come here, but they would come here. And it will depend on the stakes of the story, how big things are getting. But if Flameheart comes back and the warrior is just watching and being like, yeah, man, he's going to totally fuck shit up, but, like, he just grabs some popcorn and he just watches it. Like, it's just going to raise an eyebrow for me because, like, when you have all these powerful characters in the story, it makes it a lot harder to write yourself out of situations where the players can actually do the actual legwork and do the gameplay and the story beats. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Rare always manages to surprise me, make me delighted in some form. But something I just don't know that I'll ever be like super happy with is the fact that they're alive. Because I just always had the idea they were dead. And that's my own fault for interpreting that, but, like, and it almost comes across, maybe I'm nitpicking for this, it almost comes across like they have been telling us they've died this whole time, like there was a great calamity, and now we just learned they just went because they wanted that was paradise to them. There wasn't, like, some great force closing them in, unless I'm wrong about that.
They did leave it very vague. That's the thing, is that they left it extremely vague for a broad majority of the time. They didn't really explain much of it. They were just, they're gone, and that's all that we know.
Yeah.
So.
And we were always following in their footsteps, so I always assumed, like, crazy natural disaster or something. And I personally kind of just see that as more interesting than what we got. If they actually were forever gone, dead, and we didn't know the full story.
Right.
But I do like a lot of the lore we got. Like the Sea of the Damned stuff we got. Whew! Warrior revived. Whew! Like, we still learned some crazy stuff. And it was a good adventure overall. If we're comparing it to Adventure 6, Hunter's Cry,
it was good.
It was good. It was good, yeah.
I think comparing these to the other adventures, I think this is easily one of my favorites, which is just almost entirely due to the lore reveals. But it's still not, in my opinion, as good as, like, Shrouded Deep, I think. I think that's probably one of my favorites. I haven't really thought of a tier list yet, but I think Shrouded Deep is definitely pretty high up there for me.
I don't try to tier list most stuff. It's just, this is an ongoing thing where every adventure we try to rank them at the end of the episodes. For me, I'd say this is obviously above Shrouded Deep, but I really got to think about all the adventures. It kind of sits with Forsaken Hunter for me. Like, both great lore, but the gameplay was Fetch Quest.
Yeah, you're right.
Even then, Forsaken Hunter was still better because when we are getting the lore in this adventure, we're just reading tablets. It's just picking up an item, bringing it to the priest, and we go back. And there's lore at the end, obviously, but that's still, we don't get much dialogue or, like, characters interacting. In Forsaken Hunter, whoo! woo! The character
Ooh.
interactions, like the ending of that adventure where Belle confronts Amaranta, the Dark Brethren reveal in general, the Box of Wonders Secrets reveal, the Gold Hoarder reveal,
We got some good lore. We were eating good.
the Merrick reveal, like it was like the adventure was still very much go here, go here, go here with the ferryman lantern or whatever, but we're still seeing the story happen. We're seeing the past memories. We're interacting and learning stuff that other characters don't know. And in this one, it feels like Belle already knows everything that we're going out to get. Like we're us pirates are the ones who are completely behind on the story, and everyone else is like top tier god characters in this adventure. That's how I felt about it personally. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to say?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. It's so great for you to be my first guest appearance.
I
And
appreciate it. Yeah.
I'd love to have you on again. Anywhere that people can find you that you want to shout out?
I mean, AIU Twitter is where I put a lot of my effort. There's AIU YouTube channel. I do have a personal account. So if you want to see inane ramblings and things of that matter, then yeah, that should be in the description. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. I had honestly a great time talking about it, and I hope to see you again. We should do that Heart of Fire episode.
We should, absolutely.
You think
Yeah.
so? All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you did, and I'll see you on the seas. Bye bye.